Good morning, guys. What we have discussed in the last session, can anyone tell me what we have learned in the last session? Guys, what we have learned in the last session?
We have done with a small program of a REST API.
Okay, we discussed about how to build a REST API by using Spring Boot. So when you are going to develop the REST API, that we need to understand that there are two actors available. One application is going to play the role of a provider. Another application is going to play the role of consumer. So the application which is giving the services to other application is called as a provider application, and the application which is taking the services from the other applications is called as a consumer. So first we are going to start our journey of REST API development with the provider, because if a provider is available, then only we can develop the consumer. Somebody should be there to provide the services, then only we can access the services. So that's why first we are going to develop the provider. In order to develop the provider, we are using one annotation called @REST controller annotation. Okay, so to develop the REST API, we will use REST controller annotation. REST controller annotation to represent our Java class as a distributed component. So REST controller is equal to controller plus response body. And to develop the consumer also, there are three ways available. One is by using REST template. Second one is by using web client. Third one is by using FIAN client. So total there are three ways available in order to develop the consumer. To develop the provider, one annotation, which is a REST controller. So along with that REST controller, we are going to use several other annotations also, like get mapping, post, put, patch, delete mapping annotations, and we are going to use request param, path variable annotation also. Okay, so creating boot application. So if you want to develop the REST API, we are going to use web starter. We created one Spring Boot application by adding web starter dependency. When you add web starter, you can develop a web application, you can develop a REST API, and it will provide you MVC components, and it will provide you Apache Tomcat as the default container to run our application. Then we created one REST controller. So you can take string as a return type to send the direct response to the client, or you can take response entity also. REST controller is a class level annotation. Get mapping, post mapping, these are method level annotations. URL pattern for the method, produces we are representing. Produces will tell what type of content that method is returning to the consumer. Are you returning a plain text? Are you returning JSON? Are you returning XML? What data you are sending from the provider to consumer can be represented by using produces. Produces will represent output content type. So what content we are sending to the consumer as a response, that will be represented by produces. Then how to test this application? So whatever the REST API we developed, we have executed that boot application, and we tested that application by using Postman. So currently we are developing only provider, there is no UI. So how do we test that provider? To test the provider, we need to send HTTP request. To send that HTTP request, we are using one tool called Postman. So Postman I'm using to send a GET request. I want to send GET request, and this is the URL I want to test it. Click on send, we got the response. How to send JSON response to the client application? So earlier in the first REST controller, I have taken string as a return type. So text message will come as a response. But in the book REST controller, I'm taking object as a return type. Can anyone tell me what will happen when our method is returning object? Can anybody tell me what will happen when our method is returning object?
Spring will convert to JSON
Yes,
with the help of JSON.
Spring Boot will convert our object into JSON. Produces is equal to application/JSON. When we are returning the object, that doesn't mean that object will go to the consumer, because consumer may not be Java. Consumer can be developed by using other technologies also. So that is the reason when we are returning the object from the method, consumer will receive JSON as a output. So internally, our Spring Boot is going to convert that Java object into JSON, and it will send that JSON data as a response to the client. Okay, so you can send one object as a response, or you can send list of objects also as a response. If you send one object, it will convert into JSON. If you return list of objects, it will convert that list of objects into JSON array. Then we discussed about HTTP GET request. So when consumer want to get the data from the server, then we are going to send that GET request. Okay, but when consumer want to get particular data from the server, for example, I want to get particular video available in the YouTube, I want to get the particular course available in the Ashokite website, then we need to send some data to the server. But for the GET request, body is not available to send the data to the server. Then how to send the data to the server? There we have two options. One is query parameters, another one is path parameters. Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the URL in the form of key and value. To read those query parameters, we are using one annotation called @request param annotation, which is used to read the query parameters. And the next one, there is a other option available to send the data to the server, which is path parameter. So path parameter will represent data directly, whereas query parameter will represent the data in the form of key and value. Path parameter can present anywhere in the URL, whereas query parameter will present only at the end of the URL. So to represent that path parameter in the URL position, we are going to represent that as a template. And to read that path parameter from the URL, we will use the annotation called path variable annotation. Request param and path variable annotations we are going to use, and we are able to test that also. That means whatever we have developed yesterday, we developed one message REST controller with response entity, and we developed one book REST controller which will return single book object as a return type, which will return list of book objects, and we created one product REST controller which will take query parameter as a input and which will take path parameter also as a input. And here it is always recommended to take response entity as a method return type. So can anyone tell me what is the meaning of response entity in the REST API development? Can anybody tell me what is the purpose of response entity in the REST API development, guys?
Response entity is used to customize the response body.
Yes. So whatever the response that you are sending to the client, right? Response body, what data you want to send in the response body, and what status code you want to send to the consumer. So that can be customized by using response entity class in our application development. So when you see, when we are developing the REST controller, we are using an annotation called @REST controller annotation. Okay, for this we are using get mapping method, which is taking response entity, get product name, path variable is available. Response entity of string, that means this method will return response entity body. This is a constructor, response entity object constructor we are calling. We are passing two parameters for that constructor. One is the data that you want to send in the response body. Another one is status code that you want to send in the response. So that's why we are taking response entity as a return type of the method. We are taking response entity as a return type of the method. Are you guys able to practice whatever we discussed in the class? I'm giving the day by day. Every day I'm giving the material also. A beautiful material also I'm preparing after this class for every topic, including the example, code, screenshots, everything I'm providing in the material. Every day I'm updating this material in the portal. This material will be very, very useful for you to do the practice of the topics that we are learning in the class. Come on guys, is it useful? Whatever the notes that I'm giving, are you able to follow that notes? Is it helping you for the practice?
Yes, sir.
Like
We follow that.
You are following that and it is helping for you for the practice, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So are you able to practice whatever we discussed in the last session? Are you able to practice the REST controllers that we have developed in the last session? REST controller with get request, REST controller with path parameter, REST controller with query parameter, REST controller with object as a return type. Yes. So today we are going to work on HTTP post method. So in the last session we worked on HTTP get request. Today we are going to work on HTTP post request. So what is the purpose of HTTP get request and post request? Get is used to get the data from the server. Post request, post method is used to send data from client to server. Post method is used to send the data from client to server. Post method contains request body. Post method contains request body. So we can send the data securely. Okay, when you are submitting a form or when you want to send some binary data, when you want to send some huge amount of data, then you can go for post request method. When you go for get request method, data will go only in the URL. Get request method will not have a body. So if you want to send the data to the server, the only option is URL. But when you go for post request, right? Post method is used to send the data from client to server. Post method contains request body. We can send data, we can send payload from client to server in request body. Okay, that supports text data, that supports JSON data, that supports XML data, that supports form data, that supports binary data. Any data that you want to send from client to server, you can send by using post request. Post request contains request body. To read the data from the request body, to read data from request body, we will use @request body annotation. Okay, when you want to read the data, consumer is sending the data to the provider in the request body. Then how do we read that data from the request body? To read the data from the request body, there is a direct annotation. @request body annotation is available. So what is the purpose of HTTP post request? Post method is used to send the data from client to server. Post method contains request body. We can send payload from client to server in the request body. That payload can be JSON or XML or text or form data or binary data. Anything, whatever the data that you want to send from client to server, that can be sent by using post request. And post request is always secure because your data will not display in the URL. If you go for get request, the data will display in the URL, but when you go for post request, your data will not be displayed in the URL. So to read the data from request body, we will use request body annotation. Okay, HTTP post request send data from client to server. To map our REST controller method, to post request, we will use @post mapping annotation. What is the annotation, guys? We will use @post mapping annotation, and to read the data from the request body, we are going to use @request body annotation. Now let's go to this controller. Book REST controller is available. In the last session, we have taken book controller with get mapping. Now let me write one method which will take book object as a parameter. Public response entity of a string. I'm taking one method called add book method, which is expecting book object as a parameter. Add book method, which is expecting book object as a parameter. So for our understanding purpose, I'm going to print that book object on the console to show you the data is coming or not. System.out.println book object I am printing. Then I'm going to say string message is equal to book saved. I want to return the response. Return new response entity of the message comma HTTP status dot created. So when you are going for the post method, the status code we are going to return is 201. Success means 200. Okay, success means 200. Okay, we are going to return. Status created, that means 201. Okay, so when you are dealing with the get request, we are going to use the status code as 200. When you are dealing with the post request, we are going to use the status code as 201. 201 means created. Client is sending a post request to the server. Server has taken the data from the client and created a record. So then we will give the status code as 201. 201 means record created. Okay, so book saved. In future, we will write the logic. Save into database. Save into DB. So later we will integrate our REST API with the data JPA to insert the record into database table. Let us map this method to the post request. To map this method to the post request, we will use post mapping of book. We will use post mapping of book. Now, can you guys look at this one? Can you guys look at this method? So add book method is available. So in the add book method is returning response entity of string. It is taking book object as a parameter. How we will get this book object? From the request body. So consumer will send the data to the provider in the request body. Consumer will send the data to provider in the request body. So I want to read the data from the request body. To read the data from the request body, we will use one annotation called @request body annotation. We will use one annotation called @request body annotation. So that means my method is expecting object. But do you think that consumer will send object as an input for the method? Consumer will send object as an input, or consumer will send JSON as an input?
JSON.
Then how my method is taking object? What will happen? Consumer will send object, or consumer will send a JSON?
JSON.
Consumer will send a JSON. So consumer will send a JSON, but my method is expecting object. So again, Spring Boot will, who is going to receive the request? When a consumer sending a request to the REST API, directly it will go to our REST controller, or the request will go to dispatcher servlet.
Dispatcher servlet.
And our consumer send a request from the postman. So currently there is no consumer. So we are using postman. Okay. So when we send the request from the postman, who is going to read that request? Who is going to receive that request first?
Dispatcher servlet.
Yes. Whatever the request we are sending from the postman, that request will go to dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet will talk to handler mapper. Dispatcher servlet will talk to handler mapper. What is the role of a handler mapper here? What is the role of a handler mapper here?
This request belongs to
Take the request and identify the request.
Which controller class is used to
This
execute it
request
based
should
on
be
the
processed
URL
by which
pattern?
controller? This request should be processed by which controller? That will be identified by handler mapper. Handler mapper will give that controller details to dispatcher servlet. The REST controller details it will give to dispatcher servlet. Then what this dispatcher servlet will do? It will go to the REST controller. It will try to call the REST controller method. Consumer is sending a post request to the server with book data in the JSON format in the request body payload. So book data is coming in the payload. Then it will go to book REST controller. Post request method add book method is available. This method is expecting book object from the request body. Then dispatcher servlet will go to the handler mapper, will identify book REST controller post method should be executed. So here we are sending HTTP post request to the /book. So this is the request which is coming from the postman to the dispatcher servlet. It will give that request information to the handler mapper. Handler mapper identified that book REST controller post method should be called. Then dispatcher servlet will go to that REST controller method to execute. That method is expecting object. But consumer is sending object, or consumer is sending JSON data in the request body. Payload is a JSON, or payload is a object.
JSON.
Come on, consumer will send the JSON data or consumer will send the object data in the request body.
Consumer will send JSON data.
Consumer will send the JSON data. Then what the dispatcher servlet will do? Dispatcher servlet will convert that JSON data to Java object and will call our REST controller method. So here internally our Spring Boot will convert the payload request body coming in the JSON format. Internally Spring Boot will convert that JSON data to Java object. It will give the Java object as an input for my REST controller. So that means my method is taking object as an input, but a consumer will not give the object. Consumer will send you a post request with JSON data in the request body. The payload is a JSON. But when the JSON data comes to the dispatcher servlet will check this method is taking which parameter. Suppose if I take string book, then directly whatever the JSON is coming, directly that JSON data will come as a input. So let me first take the string as a input, string parameter I'm taking, and let me show you how this method is working. So if I take string book JSON, okay, string book JSON I'm taking, whatever the JSON data is coming from the consumer, directly I'm taking that JSON data as my method parameter, string JSON I'm taking. So let me run this application and let me show you that. Okay, so let me print that JSON data in the console. Whatever the JSON data is coming, so the JSON data I'm printing in the console. Then record saved into to do. To do means pending. Record saved into database. Message is equal to book saved. Return new response entity. Okay. Let me run this application. Now if you observe, what is my method parameter, guys? What is my method parameter? What I'm taking as a method parameter?
String.
So can I say JSON is also a string data? JSON means a string data only, right?
Yes.
I'm taking that JSON data, raw JSON data directly. So I'm taking JSON data directly as my method parameter. Go to the Postman tool, which is used for testing our API. I want to test the API by sending HTTP request. For that I am using Postman tool. Go to Postman and send the data in the request body. So HTTP post request I have to send. Okay. In the last session, we sent a GET request. Okay, now today we are going to send POST request to our method. HTTP book, if I send, I will get the book data in the JSON. Okay, same JSON data I will send in the POST request /book, right? Go to POST request. When I go for POST request, body is available. Select that body, raw data in the JSON format. So when you want to send a POST request to the REST API, go to Postman, select it as a post, URL /book, you can check it. My REST controller method, map it to POST request, URL is /book only. Then body, raw data, you select raw data in the JSON format. Raw data JSON format. This is the JSON data I am sending from the consumer to provider. Post request, this is the endpoint URL. This is REST API method URL. I want to send the data in the body, request body. So as we discussed in the previous session, HTTP request structure. Request line contains HTTP method and URL. Request headers. Currently I am not sending any headers and I am sending payload. So HTTP method, which is your post request method, and URL, that resource URL, which REST API you want to access. Headers. Currently I am not sending any headers. We will send the headers later point of time. And I am sending body. My body is a payload, business data. I am sending book data as a payload. Body, raw data in the JSON format. Go to our application console and clear that console. Now, when I click on send button, what will happen? When I click on send button, directly that request will go to our application here dispatcher servlet is available for our application. What is the role of the dispatcher servlet? From the postman, I'm sending a post request to the book URL with JSON data. Then that post request will go to dispatcher servlet. It is a front controller which will receive the request. Then immediately dispatcher servlet will give the request to handler mapper. Handler mapper will check which method in our application, which REST controller method is mapped to /book URL with post request /book. Okay, there is one method identified. Then dispatcher servlet will tell this method details to the handler mapper will tell this method details to the dispatcher servlet. Then dispatcher servlet will go to that method and will call that method. What that method is doing? It is expecting string data, request body data. So whatever the data consumer is sending in the request body, that data will be supplied as a method parameter. What is the type of the parameter? String only. Okay, now click on send button. So we send the post request, we got the response. Book saved. What is the status code? 201. 201 means request created, resource created. Whatever the post request you sent, for that post request, resource got created. Okay, 201 means created. 200 means okay. In the interview, they will ask this question. What is the difference between 200 and 201? 200 means okay. 201 means created. 2 series. 2 series is success series only. But in that success, what is the specific reason? 200 means okay. 201 means created. You should know meaning of each and every status code. Then I'm able to send the post request. Now go to our console. Now see here in the console how the data is coming, guys. Consumer sent JSON data. Provider is receiving the JSON directly because method parameter I have taken as a string. If I take method parameter is a string, then a direct raw JSON data is coming. Direct raw JSON data is coming as a method parameter. Then again, we need to convert that JSON data into Java object programmatically. But is it recommended? Take the raw JSON and convert into object manually. Is it recommended? Or directly we can take object as a parameter? Which one is recommended? Taking the raw JSON is recommended, or taking the object as a parameter recommended?
Taking the object
As a parameter is recommended.
If you take the string as a parameter, directly whatever the JSON data they are sending in the request body, that JSON will come directly to your method parameter from the request body. Okay, suppose instead of taking the JSON data, if I take a book object as a parameter, then what is the advantage with this approach, guys? Let me stop it and let me start my server. So if I'm taking book object, earlier I have taken string JSON as a parameter. So whatever the JSON that the consumer is sending, directly it is going to my method as a parameter. Okay, instead of taking that string data JSON as an input, now I'm taking book object as a parameter. Then can you expect object from the consumer, or consumer will not send the object? Consumer will send the object, or consumer will not send the object?
Will not send the object.
Consumer will send the object, or consumer will send the JSON, guys?
Consumer will send JSON.
Now you see, send that request. Consumer is sending JSON. Okay, book is saved, 201 created. Go to console. What happened now? What happened now?
Object.
JSON data converted into Java object or not?
Converted, sir.
JSON data converted to Java object or not?
Yes, converted.
Converted.
Who is converting that?
Yes.
String framework.
Client is sending the object to our method, or client is sending only JSON data?
Client is sending only
JSON
JSON
data.
Come on, I'm not getting response.
Client is sending only
JSON data.
Client is sending only JSON data.
JSON.
Then where that JSON converted to Java object? After coming to the dispatcher servlet is calling our method. Dispatcher servlet converted that JSON data to Java object, and it called our Java object method. It called with Java object as a parameter. So you see the difference. If I'm taking string as a parameter, then what is happening, guys?
Directly raw JSON will come.
If I take the
Literally
string as a
JSON data.
parameter, then what is happening? Whatever the JSON is coming in the request body, directly that JSON is supplied to my method as a parameter. Suppose if I take the string raw JSON, again I should convert that into Java object to insert into database table. And why should I convert again and again? Because converting that JSON to Java is not only my requirement, that is universal requirement. So that's why I'm taking book object as a parameter. If I take book object as a parameter, then what is happening internally? Client is sending a post request with JSON data in the request body. Then in the Spring Boot dispatcher servlet, converting that JSON to Java object using Jackson API and passing that Java object as a parameter for my method. Are you able to follow me?
Yes, understood.
So if you see, when we are taking post request method, we are taking object as a parameter. When we are developing get request method, we are taking object as a return type. So get request means to send the data to the client. Post request means take the data from the client. Client will send JSON. That JSON will be converted into Java object. Object will come to our method as a parameter. And when you go for get request method, our method is not taking any input, but our method is returning object. Whatever the object we are returning from our method, that object will be converted to JSON. JSON will be sent to the consumer in the response body. Request body, response body. Consumer will send JSON, consumer will receive JSON. In our Spring Boot application, Jackson API will be used. Whenever the JSON comes, that will be converted to object. Object will come to our method. When our method is giving the object, object will be converted back to JSON. JSON will go to the consumer. So consumer will send the JSON, consumer will receive the JSON. Why? Because JSON is a platform independent. Angular front-end application will send JSON data to Spring Boot. Spring Boot will send JSON data as a response to the Angular. React.js application will send JSON data to Spring Boot application. Spring Boot application will process that request, will send JSON data as a response to the Angular or React, whatever it is. So the communication between the consumer and provider will happen through JSON data. JSON is lightweight. JSON is platform independent. But as a programmer, when we are developing the logic, our method parameters are objects. Our method return types are objects only. We will take parameter as an object. We will take return type also as an object. Because in the Spring Boot, internally, dispatcher servlet will take care of serialization and deserialization. Whenever a post request comes with JSON data, dispatcher servlet will take it from the request body, convert into object. When our method is returning the object, dispatcher servlet will convert that object into JSON, will send to the consumer in the response body. Request body and response body both will be converted according to our method parameters and method return types. And who is converting? Dispatcher servlet. How it is converting? By using Jackson API. In the Jackson API, which class available? Object mapper. What methods available? Write value, read value methods available. So when you are developing a get request method or when you are developing post request method, you will take object as a parameter, you will take object as a return type. Internally, that JSON will be converted to object, object will be converted to JSON. Are you guys able to follow me? Once you got object as your method parameter, now can you insert this object into database table by using data.jpa? Once you got object as a parameter, can you insert that object into database table by using data.jpa?
I retrieve the data from the book and then
Yes,
I
sir.
will.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Easily.
Just you need to call the save method, repository.save method. This object will be inserted into database table.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Are you able to understand post method now? When to go for post method? What is the purpose of a post method?
to send the data client to server, then you
When
can go for
consumer want to send the data to server, any secret data, any sensitive data, huge amount of data, form data, binary data, any data client want to send from consumer to provider or client to server, then we are going to use HTTP post request. HTTP post method, HTTP post request or HTTP post method. HTTP post method is used to send the data from client to server. So client can send payload, client application can send. We can send payload from client to server in request body. With the help of post request, we can send the data in the request body. So what data we can send in the request body? That can be JSON data, that can be XML, that can be text, that can be form data, that can be binary data also. Anything you can send in the request body. So here, how do we map our method to post request method? There is an annotation called post mapping annotation is available. And the post request contains request body. So to read the data from the request body, we will use request body annotation. We will use request body annotation. Are you guys able to understand what is a post request, when to use a post request, and how it is executing in the background? What is a post request, how to use post request, and how it is working in the background? Are you able to understand?
Yes, sir. Post request is annotation which is used to read the data from the
Yes.
payload.
And here, when you go for post method is taking object as a parameter, but consumer will send the JSON. So here we will specify value is equal to /book, comma, consumes is equal to application /JSON. Consumes application /JSON, comma, produces is equal to text /plain. So what is the meaning of these three attributes, guys? Value. What is the purpose of a value? Value is used to represent what is the URL pattern of our method. Value is used to represent what is the URL pattern of our method. And consumes, produces. What is the difference between consumes and produces, guys? Come on. What is the difference between consumes and produces? What is the difference between consumes and produces?
Sending the request as
Consumes
JSON,
means in
receiving the
which
response
format
as
it
Consumes means what are the
gave
data we are
Consumes
taking,
means
type of data
in
we are
which
taking.
format it is taking the input. Consumes means in which format my REST API method is taking the input. Produces means in which format it is providing the output to the consumer. Consumes will represent input data, request payload format, request body payload, request payload format. Produces will represent response body format. So in the request body, which format of data we are expecting? Produces means in the response body, which type of data we are sending. Consumes means input format. Produces means output format. So now if you see this add book method, what this method is expecting and what this method is providing. Can you tell me what it is expecting and what it is providing?
Consumes means what it's expecting, and produce means what it's sending.
producing
Yes.
the
Produces represents REST API method response body data format. Okay. So produces represents response REST API method response body data format. Consumes represents REST API method request body data format.
Is the place.
Yes or no? Produces represents REST API method response body data format. Consumes represents REST API method request body data format. Produces and consumes. So one method can take input and it can provide output. So this method is taking JSON data as input that will be converted to Java object, and it is providing text data as a output. So consumer sending book data in the JSON format. We are going to insert that record in the table and we are going to return one success message, book got saved. So and what is the status code I am sending, guys? What is the status code I am sending? HTTP status code I am sending 201, which is created. So 200 means okay, 201 means created. Are you able to understand post request method?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to understand the post request method?
Sir, what is the difference between OK and created?
Sir, voice is not audible.
What is the difference between OK and created?
Okay means you send the request, request is processed. Created means your record is inserted. Generally, for the get request methods, we will use OK as a status code. For the post request methods, we will use created as a status code. OK means 200, created means 201. So why client will send the get request? To get the data. Okay, take your data. Why client will send the post request? To create a record. Your record is created like that. So there is a meaning for these status codes. When consumer is sending get request, we will send the response with 200 as a status code. When consumer is sending a post request, we will take the data, we will insert the record and we will send the status code as a 201. 201 means record is created.
Yes, sir, got it.
And for the post methods, can I send the data in the URL also? Post method having a body, that is fine. Payload is available. For the post method, can we send query parameters and path parameters also?
Yes.
Yes. So you can send the data in the URL also. You can send the data in the body also. Okay. So what type of data we will send in the URL? What type of data we will send in the body?
Correlated things you can pass as
what type of data we will send in the URL and what type of data we will send in the body?
JSON data you can send in the body.
Yes, any payload, any business data, any sensitive data, secure data, huge amount of data, we will send in the body. If your data is a single data like ID, employee ID, book ID, product ID, any data which is only one value, which is not secured, which is not sensitive, such a kind of data we can send in the URL. If your data is secured, if your data is sensitive, if your data is huge, then you can send the data in the request body. When you go for get request, only option URL. But when you go for post request, you can send in the URL as well as you can send in the request body also. So it depends on your requirement when to send in the URL, when to send in the request body. But you need to have the maturity. If your data is a single value like employee ID, employee name, product ID, something like that, send in the URL. If your data is a form, user form, name, email, password, phone number, mobile number, Aadhaar card, PAN number, gender, so address, state, city, like that, so much data is available, then send in the body. So either you can use URL to send the data or you can use request body. When you go for post request, you have that facility. Okay, so now we have seen all the three options. How consumer can send the data to provider. Consumer can send the data to provider in the URL as a query parameter, as a path parameter. And if it is a get request, query or path, only two options. If it is a post request, three options. Query parameters, path parameters, request body is also available. So in how many ways consumer can send the data to the provider using post request? That is one interview question.
3 ways.
In how many ways consumer can send the data to provider using HTTP post request?
3 ways.
3 ways. What are 3 ways?
Query parameter.
When parameters, path variable, and
Query parameters, path variables,
request body.
Request body. Okay. So what is the annotation we are using to map our method to post request method? Post mapping. What is the difference between consumes and produces here?
Expecting output is.
What is the difference between consumes and produces?
Consumes means the type of data.
Consumes means in which format our method is expecting input format. Produces means in which format our method is providing the output. So what is the purpose of this request body? Suppose if I don't write the request body annotation, if I take only object as parameter,
The Spring Boot will not populate that.
We cannot read
yes,
the value.
it will not read the data from the request body. It will not read the payload sent by the consumer. It will pass null object. It will pass empty object to our method. So if you write request body annotation, then only dispatcher servlet will take the data from the request body. If you use request body annotation, then only the dispatcher servlet will take the data from the request body and it will send to the server. It will send to the method. If you don't write this annotation, you will not get the data. You will get only empty object. See here, I will show you. I'm removing that request body annotation. Just I'm writing object as a parameter. So run this application. Clear this. Now go to the postman. Let us send a post request to this URL with JSON data in the request body. Click on send. Now book is saved, but can you see in the console book data is coming or book data is not coming?
Book data is not coming.
Book data is coming or book data is not coming in the body.
Not coming.
What object is coming as a method parameter, guys? Everything is null. ID is null, name is null, price is null. Why? Just I am taking object. So I am not telling to the dispatcher servlet, it has to take the object data from the request body. So if you write this annotation, then only it will read the data from the request body. It will populate into your object and will pass that object as a parameter. If you don't write this annotation, it will pass empty object only. If you don't write this annotation, it will pass empty object only. Are you able to follow this?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Are you able to follow this?
sir.
Yes, sir.
So what is the purpose of request body annotation?
So read the data from the client.
It is used to read the data from the request body. So here, if I take string as a parameter, what will happen? If I take object as a parameter, what will happen?
String as a parameter.
Then raw
If I
JSON
take
data
string,
will be
what is
taken.
happening?
Raw JSON data will be
Raw
taken
JSON
to
data will
response.
come to our method. Again, programmer should convert that JSON data to Java object. Instead of that, if I take book object as a parameter, dispatcher servlet will take the raw JSON, will convert into Java object, pass that Java object as a parameter for my method.
Yes.
So which is recommended?
Pass the
JSON object as
Which
a
is recommended, guys?
Sir, can you please explain about the string object and object request one more time?
So if you take string, whatever the JSON client is passing, direct JSON will come to your method as a parameter. Okay. So see here, I'm taking request body data type as a string. Then when I send the request to the provider application, whatever the JSON we are sending, this JSON will go to my method as it is. That is a raw JSON. Whatever the JSON that consumer is sending to the provider, this JSON data will go to our REST controller method parameter as it is. No conversion. Conversion will not happen. Direct whatever the JSON consumer is sending, that JSON will come to provider as it is. Now let's go here and send the request. When I send the request, you can see in the console what is the book data printing.
It's a kind of a string only.
It's kind of string only. That is a raw JSON.
Raw JSON, okay.
No conversion.
So the counterparty has to take then take this and convert as an object and use it, right?
Yes. So that is a burden for us, right? Extra logic we need to write it.
Okay,
You got my point.
got it, sir.
So if I take this JSON string directly, what is the disadvantage here, guys?
You need to convert manually.
What is the disadvantage?
Directly,
Can I insert this
We have to
JSON
write
directly
logic
into
convert
database?
it into.
no sir, no sir.
Can I insert this JSON directly into database?
It is not there in object
Again, I
format.
need to convert this JSON into Java object. Then convert that, then insert that object into database table. So instead of taking this, suppose if you want raw JSON, then there is an option. If you take string as a parameter, whatever the JSON that consumer is sending, raw JSON will come to your method as a parameter, and you can use the raw JSON, you can play with that. Suppose I don't want raw JSON, I want object. Whatever the JSON is coming, you take it, you convert into object, you give me the object directly. Then I will use the object. Then you can take object as a parameter. If I take object as a parameter, what is happening? If I take object as a parameter, then what is happening, guys? Consumer will send the object or consumer will send the JSON only?
Consumer will send the JSON.
Consumer will send the JSON only.
JSON.
Then where it will be converted to object?
Dispatcher servlet will convert the
Dispatcher servlet will convert that JSON data into Java object and will pass that Java object as a parameter for our method. Click on send. Now you see the console. JSON is coming, JSON is printing, object is printing.
printing.
Object is printing. So with this, can I say that JSON is converted into Java object?
Yes, sir.
With this, can I say JSON is converted into Java object?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, JSON is converted into Java object. Are you clear with the post request method? So value is equal to /book, consumes is equal to JSON, produces is equal to plain text. What is the difference between consumes and produces here, guys? What is the difference between consumes and produces here?
Consumes is expecting.
And notice what are the data, type of data we are expecting.
What type of data we are expecting from the consumer? Produces means what data we are providing to the consumer.
Is the output.
Sir, how to send form data, sir? Form data?
Form data means you have the mix. Form data, form fields available plus some binary data is available. So whenever you submit the form data can come to the request body.
Okay, sir. But in REST we can do, sir. Can you do that one actually in the RESTful
Yes,
service?
we can do that. Okay. So with this we understood what is a get request, what is a post request. So now come and can you tell me what is the difference between HTTP get request and HTTP post request, guys? What is the difference between HTTP get request and HTTP post request?
Get request is used to retrieve the data. And
what is the difference between HTTP get request and HTTP post request?
HTTP get
Post request is
the data will not have any security.
There are two ways to send data to the HTTP GET request. One is query parameters and one is path variable.
Get request is used to get the data from the server. If you want to get specific data from the server, then you can send the inputs to the get request. You can send the inputs to the server using get request in the URL only. Path parameters and query parameters. Get request don't have any body. So if you want to send some huge amount of data, some sensitive data, then you need to send in the request body. For that, you will go for post request. Post request contains request body. Post means to send the data. Get means to get the data. Okay. So when you go for post request, you can send the data to server in three ways. One is query parameter. Second one is path parameter. Third one is request body. Okay. Generally, when you are working with the get request, status code we will send as 200. When we are working with the post request, status code we will send as 201. 200 means okay, 201 means created. Similarly, we are going to use put request methods also in the REST API development. We are going to use put request methods also in the REST API development. So what is put request, guys? What is put request?
Update the record in server side.
Put method is used for updating a record. Put method is used for updating a record. So for put method, we can send the data in 3 ways. In HTTP put method, in HTTP put request, we can send the data in 3 ways here also. One is by using query parameters. Second one is by using path parameters. Third one is by using request body. Okay. To map REST controller method to the put request, we will use @put mapping annotation. To map our REST controller method to put request, we will use @put mapping annotation. Okay, so we are talking about HTTP put request. So what is this HTTP put request? Put method is used for updating a resource or a record. Already one book is available in the database. I want to update that book record in the table. So to update that book record in the table, then we can use put method. So in HTTP put request, for HTTP put request, we can using HTTP put request, we can send a data to server. We can send a data to server in below 3 ways. Okay, what are those 3 ways? One is by using query parameters. Second one is by using path parameters. Third one is by using request body. So to map our REST controller method to put request, we will use one annotation which is called put mapping annotation. Okay, so simple. Let me go to here. Let me create one more method.
Sir,
Public.
one sentence, please. Query parameter and path param both are in URL, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Update book. I want to take a book ID and I want to take book object. Which book you want to update? What data you want to update? So I'm taking a put request method. For that we will use @put mapping, @put mapping /book. Okay, and I'm using book ID as a path variable. So here I'm taking one annotation called @path variable of book ID, comma book data. Which data that you want to update? I'm expecting that in the request body. Guys, is it valid? What inputs this method is taking? Earlier my post method is taking only request body because a new record should be created. Now I want to update the record. So for this I'm taking book ID as a path parameter and I'm taking book data in the request body. So as we discussed, put method is used for updating a record. So that means record is already available. So we want to update the existing record only. So to update the existing record, we can send the data by using query parameters. We can send the data by using path parameters. We can send the data by using request body also. So to map our REST controller method to put request, we will use put mapping annotation. Now look at this. Here I can print system.out.println. What is the book ID you are giving? System.out.println book ID. Which book that you want me to update? That ID primary key we are getting. And system.out.println of book object, then return new response entity. Okay, so here whatever the book that you are updating, that book again you can return as a response. Return new response entity, so which is book comma http status dot okay. So that record is updated. Here we will write the logic update book in DB. This is a to do. So we are taking the latest information, we are updating. Updated information we will send back as a response to the consumer. So look at this put request method. So generally when we are writing the put request method, this is the approach we are going to follow. So which book you want to update? Put means updating. That means record is already available. So which record you want to update? Take that book ID as a path variable and which data you want to update, take that data in the request body. In the book also, book ID is available, and again we are taking that also as a path variable. I want to show you multiple varieties of developing the methods. So earlier, when I go for post method, I'm taking post method means a new record. ID will not be available. So that is the reason I'm taking direct book object in the request body. From the request body, I'm taking direct book object. It is a post mapping method. But when it comes to put request method, this is in already existing book. I want to update. So for that, I'm taking book ID as a path variable. Path variable will represent data directly in the URL. So that's why in the URL template, I'm taking book ID, and the actual book data which we want to update, I'm taking from the request body. After the record is updated, I will send the updated book again back to the consumer. So you give me book ID, you give me data which you want to update. After updating, I will send you updated data as a response. So here, if you see the put mapping, value is equal to book comma book ID, then consumes and produces, both available, both are JSON. I'm expecting application / JSON in the request body, and I'm giving you produces also as a JSON, because you are giving me the book data in the request body to update. After the record is updated, I will send you updated book as a response to you. So consumes is JSON, produces is also JSON. Consumes is JSON, produces is also JSON. Look at this put mapping method. Can you guys look at the put mapping method? Are you able to understand? What is the purpose of a put mapping? What is the purpose of a put mapping?
They're updating record in database
On
server.
the database server.
Sorry?
Updating the record in
That
database
in the
server.
existing
It is
record.
used to update the record in the database. What it is taking as an input, guys?
It is taking
ID.
path variable as a book ID.
I'm taking two things.
Yeah, and
I'm taking
book
two
object
things.
request body.
What are the two things we are taking?
Book ID and book
Book
object.
ID.
Book
Book
ID
ID
and
we
book
are taking
object.
as an input, as a path variable, because already existing book we want to update.
Yes.
Which book you want to update, take the book ID, and what data you want to update, you take the data in the request body.
Yes.
And what is the consumes and what is the produces here? What is the consumes and what is the produces here?
What is the input it is
JSON data.
expecting?
What is the consumes and what is the produces here?
And what is the type of data we are expecting?
The both are
Both are
JSON
JSON format data.
consumes JSON object and returns the
Consuming
same.
the JSON only, producing the
Producing
JSON
JSON
only.
only.
So if you produce this JSON only, again the other party has to again convert that JSON to object, right? That is their responsibility.
Yes, sir. They will take care of it.
Okay. Sir, elaborate just consumes and produce once again, sir.
Input format, output format, sir. Simple.
Okay.
Consumes means what input your method is expecting. Produces means what output your method is providing.
Okay. Good, sir. Thank you.
What you are taking, what you are expecting as an input, what you are providing as an output.
Okay,
Consumes
sir.
means input data format. Produces means output data format.
Yes. Okay, sir. Got it.
Why I am taking both path variable and request body here, guys?
Update the specified
Please, record is already available in database.
Why I am taking both path variable and request body here?
According to ID, we will update the data. And after
We are updating for that particular ID.
We want to update the existing record. So existing record ID I am taking, and the data which I want to update I am taking. And what is the response we will send back?
After updating remaining data.
After updation, updated data we will send back in the response. So that's the reason method parameter I'm taking as a book object. Method return type also I'm taking as a book object.
The book object we have ID, right? Why we are passing it?
Sorry?
In the book object we have ID, right?
Yeah, that is what I'm telling you, sir. I want to show you. So for the post method, put method, we can send the data in the three different ways. Already ID will come in the book object also. Just to show you that this is also possible, I'm taking that path variable. If you don't take also, no problem, because in the book object already ID will come. Just I want to show you that this is also one possible approach. You can pass the data in both ways. In the URL you can pass, in the request body also you can pass.
Okay.
Okay. So with this we understood what is put mapping method.
Sir,
So
could you repeat that?
post method is available, put method is available. Post method is used to create the new record, a fresh record that you want to create, then post request will be used. When you want to update the existing record, then put. Okay, so when you go for generally, put is used for updating the complete record data, book name, book price, book author, everything that if you want to update at a time, put. Suppose I want to update only particular value in the book. I don't want to update the complete book data. I want to update only particular value in the book. Only book price I want to update. Which one is recommended?
Put method.
Patch.
Patch request.
Which one is recommended, guys?
Patch.
So the universal meaning, HTTP protocol is not only for the Java developer. HTTP protocol is universal. The whole internet world runs based on the HTTP protocol. As per HTTP, put and patch both are used for update only, but put is used for complete update, patch is used for partial update. Complete update means we are updating complete book record information. Patch means we want to update only particular value in the book, book price or book name or book author, some value, some data, only particular value. If you want to update, then we are going to use patch mapping. But using patch is very rare in the project. So the only simple thing that if you want to use, if you want to go for the patch now, same here, instead of a put mapping, you will simply write it as a patch mapping. That's it. Instead of a put mapping, you can write it as a patch mapping. Update book. Okay. So update book, put update, patch update. Update book. So duplicate method name. So I will write it as a update book put. Here I will write update book patch. So the only difference you can use in the annotation. If you use a put mapping, it is a put request method. If you use a patch mapping, that is a patch request method. Now let me run this application. Put mapping method, patch mapping methods available. Get to post we have seen, and put and patch we are seeing now. This is put request method. The URL pattern /book, expecting book ID as a path parameter, expecting book data in the request body. So currently database logic is not integrated. So we need to integrate with the database logic so that it will perform operations in the database. Clear it. Go to Postman. So this is my book. Let me go with the put /101, and this is the book I am sending. Put, select the request type as put and book /101. 101 is a path parameter, and this is my JSON data. Okay. Clear this console. Send this request. So when I send that request, I will get the book data as again back in the response. Okay. So I'm sending path parameter and I'm sending JSON. It will update the book. Updated book I will get back as a response. So you see, method is taking ID path parameter. Method is taking request body in the JSON format. So for put method, we can send the data in the URL as well as we can send the data in the request body also. For put method, we can send the data in the request body and we can send the data in the URL also. Same thing you can do with the patch also. So here instead of put, you can go for patch, same ID and the data in the body. Send that request. Patch request I'm sending. I'm getting the JSON. I'm giving JSON as the input. I'm getting JSON as the output. So go here, book ID, book data. Path parameter available, request body is also available. ID we are sending as a path parameter, JSON data we are sending in the request body. So generally put is used for updating the complete record, patch is used for updating the partial data in the record. Are you able to follow this?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
What is
sir.
the difference between get, post, put, patch?
Get method we are using for retrieving the
Get method we are using to retrieve the data.
server. Yes.
Okay.
And put we are using for creating new record in the database
Post
server.
method we are using to create the new record. Okay.
And
Put method is to
put
update the
Put
Put
is
method
used to
is used to
partial update.
update the existing record.
yes,
patch is
Patch method is also
to
for
do a
updating the
partial
Partially
existing
update the
record.
record.
partial updation.
Partial update. Put is used for complete update. Patch is used for partial update.
partial.
Similarly, we are having one more type of request, that is HTTP delete request is available. How we are having put patch na? Similarly, HTTP delete request is also available. What is the purpose of HTTP delete request, guys?
Delete the
Record.
record
Records.
Record.
Existing records.
from the
What is the
database.
purpose of HTTP delete request?
To delete the
record
resource
from
at
the
server side.
HTTP delete method is used for deleting a record. HTTP delete method that is used for deleting a record. So here for the delete method also we can send the data in three ways: query parameters, path parameters, request body. To map our method to delete request, we will use annotation called @delete method. Delete method is used for deleting a record. So whatever the record available in our system, by using the REST API, I want to delete one record. By using REST API, I want to delete one record. Delete method is used for deleting a record. Using delete request, we can send the data in three ways. Here also you can use query parameters. Here also you can use path parameters. You can use request body. To map our REST controller method to delete request, we will use one annotation called @delete mapping annotation. So very simple. I am writing one more method here, guys. Public response entity string I'm taking delete book. I'm expecting book ID. I don't need any data in the body. I need only ID. Based on the ID, I can delete the record. So to do delete the record in database. Then string message is equal to book deleted. Return new response entity of message comma HTTP status dot OK. That means that record is deleted, and we will write it as delete mapping. The annotation is delete mapping and /book. All I'm giving with the same URL pattern, but methods are different. Delete mapping, book I am giving. Okay, so here ID I am getting, right? How to take this ID, book ID, as a path variable. So I will reuse the annotation called path variable of book ID. So this is delete method, which is used to delete the record from the tables. Whatever the database table we are going to use, if you want to delete that record from the database table, then we are going to use delete mapping method. So delete mapping method is taking book ID as a path variable. By using that book ID, we can find out the record available in the database table, and we can delete that record from the table. After deleting that record, we are sending success message back to the consumer with the status code as 200. Okay, you send a delete request with ID, I deleted that record. Okay, I deleted. 200 means okay. Okay means 200. Only for post, we will use 201. For the remaining methods, we will use 200. 201 means created, record is inserted. Are you clear how to write delete mapping, guys?
Hello, sir.
Yes, now let us send a delete request and see whether it is working as expected or not. Yeah, it is started. Go to browser, delete. So I'm using delete /101, click on send and see the response, book delete, 200, okay. So we are able to send delete request also to the REST API by using our Postman. So we have seen get, we have seen post, put, patch, delete. These are the 5 methods that we are going to use while developing our REST API. These are the 5 methods we are going to use while developing our REST API. Are you able to understand the code that we have implemented? It's very simple. The only thing is the proper annotations that we need to use. Book REST controller. To represent our Java class as a REST controller, we used one annotation called @REST controller annotation. Inside that, we used a method called add book method, which is a post mapping method, which is consuming JSON, which is producing plain text data. That book data we are taking in the request body. So whatever the JSON consumer is sending, that JSON data will be converted into Java object. Object will be taken as our method parameter. Then put mapping, update book method is available, which is taking consuming JSON, producing JSON. It is taking book ID as a path variable and it is providing request body data. Then similarly, patch mapping, post, put and patch almost same, thin line of difference. Then delete mapping, it is expecting book ID as a path variable and it is going to delete that record. So out of all these 5 methods, only get request method don't have the request body. The remaining all methods are having the request body. Only for the get method, request body is not available. For the remaining all methods, the request body is available. So if you want to send the data to the provider, consumer can send the data in the URL, consumer can send the data in the request body. In the URL, 2 ways available. One is by using path parameter, another one is by using query parameters. So only for the get request body is not available, and for the remaining methods, post, put, patch, delete, request body is also available. Is this clear for everyone?
Hello, sir.
So with this you understood how to develop provider, how to develop a provider by using Spring Boot, how to develop the provider application. So to develop the provider, we are using REST controller annotation. So the REST controller annotation is going to represent our Java class as a distributed component. It will make your application as a REST API. So inside that REST controller, multiple methods we are writing. Those methods we are mapping to HTTP protocol methods. To map our methods to HTTP protocol methods, we will use get, post, put, patch, delete. So depends on our requirement, we are going to map them to those particular methods. And the next one, how consumer can send the data to the provider? Consumer can send the data to the provider in 3 ways. One is by using request parameter, another one is by using path variable, third one is by using request body. So out of the 5 methods, only get method don't have the request body. The remaining methods are having request body. Okay, so if you go for get, only you can send the data in the URL. But if you go for post, put, patch, delete, for these 4 methods, consumer can send the data in the URL as well as in the request body also. And when we are developing this provider, we have used one concept called consumes and produces. So what is the meaning of consumes and produces here? Consumes will represent that in which format consumer is expecting input data. Consumes and produces. Consumes will represent that in which format REST API method expecting input from the, consume means in which format REST API method expecting the input from the consumer. Produces means REST API method providing the response to the consumer in which format. Consumes means input format. Produces means output format. So we are clear with all these concepts. That means now you know how to develop one REST API. You know how to develop a provider. So here concept wise we are clear. So what is REST API? REST API is a distributed application which will provide the services to other applications. So if one application want to communicate with the another application, B2B communication, then we will develop the REST APIs. So to develop the REST APIs, provider will be available, consumer will be available. So by using Spring Boot, we are developing the provider. To develop the provider, we will need how to work with JSON, and we should know HTTP protocol. JSON is used to transfer data from consumer to provider, provider to consumer. And a consumer will talk to the provider by using HTTP protocol. What is HTTP and what are the methods available? What are the status codes available? What is HTTP request structure? What is HTTP response structure? That we are able to understand. So how to create a REST controller, how to create the methods in the REST controller, how to test those methods, get mapping, post, put, patch, delete. And what is request param, what is path variable, what is request body, what is consumes, what is produces. So we are clear with all these concepts. We are clear with all these concepts. Is it fine for everyone? All of you confident on the provider development? Now, the assignment for you today is, I want you people to develop one REST application to perform CRUD operations. Currently, our REST API is available, but here, everything I have given as a to do. That means delete the book, update the book, and insert the book, update the book, and insert the book. Database logic is not available. I want you people to develop this application to perform CRUD operations with the real database. I want you to develop the REST API which is going to perform CRUD operations with your database table. So already that project also I have implemented. I have given that project video also to you in the chat box. I think in the last 2 days back only, I have given this video. So assignment, develop Spring Boot REST API to perform CRUD operations with a database table using Spring Data JPA. Are you clear with my point? Can you guys complete this assignment? So you know how to develop a REST API. You know what is get, what is post, put, patch, delete. But today I developed this REST API application without integrating the database. I developed this application without integrating the database. Now I want you people to develop this application by integrating MySQL database or H2 database, whatever that you want, you can use it. So this is the video. If you go through this video, complete 30 minutes, I explained how to develop the REST API to perform CRUD operations. So end-to-end development with live coding I have explained. The REST API development by using MySQL database with the help of Spring Data JPA. Okay, so this is our video, 30 minutes only guys. So if you spend 30 minutes of time, you can complete this project. End-to-end development. In this project, I explained how to develop one Spring Boot provider application, basically the REST API application. If you see, this is the diagram. If you see, this is the diagram. So we created a REST controller. That REST controller is going to communicate with our service. and binding class is available. It will communicate with the repository. Repository will communicate with the database to perform the operations. Okay. And in order to test this API, we used Postman tool. So we are going to insert the record, update the record, delete the record, retrieve the record. So I want all of you to complete this API before coming to tomorrow's session. Can you guys do this one? Can you guys do this one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the task. Everybody should show me your API development in the tomorrow session. So whatever that we have discussed, there is nothing I have not covered in the class. Everything I explained. The only thing is I have not done the database integration. I want you to integrate data JPA in the REST API and develop a project to perform CRUD operations with the database. So you know what is data JPA. You know how to perform CRUD operations. With the WebMVC application, we performed CRUD operations. Now, with the REST API, we want to perform the CRUD operations. That is the only difference. Earlier, with the UI, we performed CRUD operations. Now, without UI, we are going to perform the CRUD operations. We are going to develop REST API application. So, if you develop this REST API with the CRUD operations, that means you are good with the provider development. You are good with the provider development. So in the tomorrow session, if you guys complete this project, if you show me this project that you have completed, then in the tomorrow session, I'm going to explain you consumer development. What is a consumer development and how to develop a consumer? How many ways are there?
Sir, you told
Yeah.
like for get request body is not required, but if I am giving also, it's not showing any error, right?
Which one? Can you come again?
For get request, body is not required. We should not give like
It
that.
will not take. Even if you take the request body also, data will not be coming to that. No?
Yeah,
if you
it's
take
coming.
also, it will not give any error. No error. Yes.
No error. It's taking request body.
Body taking means I did not get your point.
In controller also, I'm keeping at the rate request body, and I'm mapping that request body here, and I can get that.
I'm not understanding. What are you saying?
She's saying through GET request, she is sending data and it is accepting in request
It
body.
will go in the URL format, madam. Whatever the data that you are passing there, that will go as a URL. So officially for GET request, body will not be available.
Sir, if you're dealing with post mapping and like if you're dealing with forms in a post mapping, how the data will go? It will go in
JSON format only. So whenever you submit the form, your form data will go to the provider in the JSON format.
like in the body, the request.
Yes. Now, if you see in the Ashok IT website, there is a contact us form is available, right? So this whatever the Ashok IT website, that new website you are seeing, that is built in the Angular. So when you go to contact us form, so you will fill the form data, name, email ID, country code, and mobile number. You will enter and you will submit. So this is form in the Angular. So what the Angular will do? Angular will take the form data, will send this form data to the Ashok IT Spring Boot backend REST API in the JSON format.
Okay.
You got my point. So this front end application will take the data in the form from the end user. It will send that data to the backend in the JSON format. In the backend, that JSON data will be converted to Java object. That object will be inserted into database table by using data JPA.
Yeah, got it.
You got my point?
Yes.
For real time also we can use this one, Postman, sir.
Same, sir. The real time also we are going to use the Postman in order to test the APIs.
Okay.
Whenever you are developing a provider, UI is not available, right? So in order to test that API, we will use Postman only. Okay.
Sir, in a single project, we can take multiple REST controllers, right now?
Yes,
so
sir.
if we have two controllers, book REST controller and product REST controller, then we can say that we have developed two REST APIs.
You can say one project having two REST controllers. Generally in the real time, in every microservice, only one REST controller will be available, not two REST controllers. Technically, you can do it. It's possible. Within one project, you can create 2 REST controllers also.
Then it is called two REST API development.
No, we can't call like that. If you create a separate project, then it is called as a REST API. So you can say 2 REST controller means 2 REST endpoints available in one project.
Okay.
One project contains 2
In
REST
real time,
endpoints. Sorry? One REST API?
In real time for a single project?
Yes, one REST API with 2 REST endpoints. You can say that.
No. In real time, for a single project, we always take one single REST API endpoint.
Correct, sir. One REST controller we will take. Especially when you go for microservices, in every REST API, only one REST controller will be available.
Okay, sure.
Okay, good. Anyone else having any other questions, guys?
Sir, put mapping or patch mapping, we can pass only path variable without a request body.
Without request body, then what is the use of sending the put request? Put request is used to update the data, right? You can send it without body also, but generally when you are going to update the record, right, you need to send the data which you want to update.
Okay.
Body is optional, it's not mandatory, but if you want to update the record, you need to send the data. You got my point?
Yeah, I got it.
Sir, actually we didn't say option in HTTP. So is it required option?
Options method, head method not required, sir. In the REST API, we don't use them. I never used in my 10 years of life that options method and head method.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
Patch method also very rare, sir. I never used patch method also. Just I'm telling you the purpose of it, but whenever we want to do the update, we will use post method, put method only.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Hi, tell me.
Sir, if I send the data by using path variable, how can I mention the consumer format?
Sorry?
If I send the data by using path variable, how can I consumes format? How can I mention the consumer format?
No, sir. Consumes is applicable only for the body data, not for the URL data.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So whenever you are specifying the consumes, that means you are specifying only for the request body consuming format.
Okay, sir. Okay.
You got my point?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Sir, if we are okay with sending data through GET request, so it will work fine when we use request body with in REST API methods.
Sir, GET request will not support for the body, sir. If you are sending the data in the body with the GET request, it will go in the URL, not in the body.
Okay,
you can
okay,
see
got it.
HTTP documentation. It won't support for that.
Sir, in data JP, find by methods are there, sir. All find by methods return type is list only, sir. With using fields, sir, not only IDs.
Sorry, can you come again?
Sir, in data JPA, find by methods are there, sir. Find by methods are return type is list only, sir. Whenever we are writing SQL queries, sir. Find by name, find by ID by using fields.
Find by methods means that is your custom method. You can take the return type whatever you want for your method, right? Find by method is a predefined, not predefined method. It is a user defined method that you are writing. So whatever the return type you want, you can take it. You got my point?
Sir, we are writing field by using fields, sir. Find by employee name.
That is user defined method only, na sir. You can take the return type as a list. You can take or single object. You can take whatever you want. You can take as a return type, right?
Okay.
So find by method means your defined method, na. It is not a predefined method.
Okay.
That method you are writing. You can take the return type whatever you want. Able to understand?
Yes, sir. Understand.
Sir, I have one question. I have 2 tables, one parent table and child table.
Sorry?
I have 2 tables, one parent table.
Speak loudly, sir. I can't hear your question. You can ask not to. You can ask 20 questions also. Speak loud.
Yeah, I have 2 tables, one parent table and child table. I need to update the data in child table. So
guys, can you hear his voice? Your voice is not audible clearly.
Sir, I have 2 tables, parent table and child table.
Okay.
I need to update the data in child table. So in that case, I need to use put method or post methods.
Post method, sir. Sorry, put method. Anything, whether it is a parent table or child table, you are going to update the record. When you are going to update the record, you can use that one. Put method.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So guys, I want you people to complete the assignment that I have given for you. Video also I have given for reference. How to develop that I have given as a reference. So please go through that and complete that project before coming to tomorrow's session. Tomorrow I want you people to show me the project that you have developed by using REST API to perform CRUD operations. Once you guys are able to complete that project, then we will understand consumer development by using Spring Boot. So if we develop the consumer by using Spring Boot, then we are good with the REST API. Then we will talk about some real-time scenarios related to the REST API. Okay, all of you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you guys completing the project by tomorrow? It's very simple. Just you need to develop one REST API integrating with the data JPA to perform the CRUD operations. Already you know what is data JPA and you know how to develop a provider. So the notes also I am updating in the portal, everything along with the code. I have prepared the notes and I am giving the proper screenshots and I am giving the screenshots of the Postman tool also. So today we discussed about how to work with HTTP post method. Yesterday we worked with the GET request. Today we worked with the post request. Okay, so this is the post request method example. Consumes and produces we have taken, and this is a screenshot how I am sending the post request using Postman. Put request, and this is the screenshot for the put request method code. Okay, so here let me change this name. Patch method I'm not giving, guys, it's not required. We don't use that in the real time. We will use update book method, which is mapped to put mapping. Put mapping means updating the record. We can send the data in the URL as well as in the body also. So I'm taking the data both in the URL as well as in the body. Update book, put mapping, query path parameter, book ID I'm taking as a path parameter, and data I'm taking in the JSON body data. Put request method screenshot. Similarly, delete request method is also available. Good. So assignment, I want you people to complete the project development. Develop Spring Boot REST API to perform CRUD operations with the database table by using data JPA. The video link also I'm giving in the material for your reference. So if you guys can complete this project, then excellent. Tomorrow we will start with that one, consumer development. Good. Thank you guys. With this I'm stopping. We'll meet again in the tomorrow session. Until then, bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.